Hello, and welcome to another edition of All or Nada According to Jack, with your host, Jack Toledano. I have two very special guests today. Uh, First, we have Chuck Alvarez, who's famously known as being on the In the Prague Seat show on Tuesday evenings on the Sea of Tranquility. And then none other than my very good friend and host of Sea of Tranquility, Mr. Pete Pardo,
Greetings, everyone.
who I just saw this past weekend.
That's right.
It was the coolest thing. So I am wearing this shirt in commemoration. I'm just going to stand up for the fact that I'm hanging out at Pete's house on Saturday. We're watching the game, and we caught the tail end of the the retiring of number 17 in Mets lore for Keith Hernandez, who I really energized the team and energized me as a fan back in 1983 when that bombshell trade happened. I was stunned.
Rick Omby and Nick and Neil Allen.
I never thought the Cardinals would ever get rid of him, but apparently, I guess he was with odds with, was it Whitey Herzog?
Whitey Herzog.
Yeah.
And next thing I knew, he became available, and the Mets got him. I'm like, yes, this team's back, baby.
Took a couple of years, but yeah.
Well, you know what? It was a different vibe that summer
Oh, yeah.
already.
Yeah.
But so, in any event, so I know Pete's history as a Met fan. I don't really know yours, Chuck. So tell us a little bit about you being a Met fan.
Well, as you probably will get to know right now, I'm a lifelong Bronxite. Lived my entire life in the Bronx. I lived 25 years in the southern part of the Bronx, right there in the foothills of Yankee Stadium. I used to go to a lot of games, but I was never a fan of the team. My father, when he first came to this country from Honduras in 1964, rather than to live with his brother, my uncle, he had actually roomed in with some Mets out in Flushing in a boarding house for almost 4 months in 1964. I mean, we already know how bad the Mets were in 1964.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they only won 51 games that year. But he developed a friendship with a lot of the guys on the team. And he had been throughout his entire life, he was always a Met fan. You know, my father just despised the Yankees. I didn't despise them, but like I said, this was never my team. I would never root for them, but I didn't hate them like the way my father did. And I took my father to a few Yankee games, but the majority of the games I always went to with him and so were to Shea Stadium. You know, sadly, he died. He died 3 years after Citi Field was erected, and so. But he was a lifelong Mets fan, man. Loved the Mets, and he was so happy with the Keith Hernandez trade. You know, he couldn't believe that we could get a superstar like this guy, and poor Keith. You know, if you listen to his story, he said that he was basically like going through the motions in 1983. You know, winning a championship in 1982 with the Cardinals, and then all of a sudden he's traded over to this team that this St. Louis ownership and Whitey Herzog basically wanted to banish him to hell. But lo and behold, according to Keith, he said his brother and his father, that they convinced him to stay because there was all this talent that was coming up. You know, he got to play with Mookie, he got to play with Wally Backman, he got to play with Ron Darling in '83. But then '84, the team just took off. But they were missing that one piece. And once they got that piece in 1985, that's when they really started to take off.
Right.
It's always been my team, man. Let's go Mets.
All right. Yep. That's a great story. That's very cool. And my story, it's a little more ignominious. I actually lived in Flushing as a small child, and we moved out to suburbia in 1972. And while we lived in Flushing, I had never been to a game. It wasn't until, and I wasn't even into baseball. It wasn't until I started playing baseball with, the kids in my neighborhood. And this one neighborhood was very instrumental in getting me to not only to like baseball, but to become a Met fan. And lo and behold, they made it to the World Series that year in '73. So then I was hooked. And we finally went to our first game in '74, and the rest was history. So, how about you, Pete?
I mean, my father was a Met fan and still is a Met fan. And so I grew up in a house. Interestingly enough, most of my grandfathers, my great uncle, they were all Yankee fans.
Oh.
So it was basically my father and my uncle, his brother, who's no longer with us. They were Met fans. So growing up as a little kid, that's what was always playing. It was always this fight between what TV would the Mets play on versus the Yankees, you know. So there was always that kind of battle there. So I grew up with that. But I just always gravitated toward the Mets. I guess my father's influence there, but there was something about being a young kid, like in the 70s, growing up being a fan of the lousy team, right? The perpetual underdogs. My father always like kind of knocked that into me. He's like, you got to root for the underdog. You got to root for the underdog. Yankees are never the underdog. And I grew to just not like the Yankees at all for all those reasons. And then, you know, the Steinbrenner years and just like spending all sorts of money that the best team money could buy and all blah, 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 blah. And for me, as frustrating as it's been to be a Met fan for, you know, because they just, let's face it, they've only won a couple championships, right? They've only gotten to far in the playoffs a few times. And it's like, so there's been a lot of heartbreak and disappointment and frustration over the years, but man, some great players. And just, again, it's like the team that the little team that could, right? It's like, that's, we're always kind of rooting for them. And, you know, some of my favorite baseball players of all time have been Met players, you know, Mike Piazza, Keith Hernandez, Darryl Strawberry, you know, David Wright, and now Pete Alonso. I mean, we've Jacob deGrom, and then we got Scherzer. So we've had a lot of really good players.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've also brought a lot of really good players from other organizations, and then they come here and then they're terrible. It's like, what happened here? You know, they don't pay, right? So many of them haven't, right? Do you remember like when we signed Carlos Beltran and how excited we all were? Then that first season was miserable for him.
Oh man,
but then he bounced back and he became a great player for us.
Well, you guys want to laugh. I mean, so being on Sea of Tranquility and having my own show and being a part of this great musical community and getting to know all these viewers throughout the country. And we talk about all different topics. And, you know, we talk about baseball. And they all know now that we're all Met fans. And so a few people actually reached out to me and asked, a few people actually reached out to me and asked me, what do they mean by Bobby Bonilla Day?
Don't remind us.
Oh man,
it's not our money. But, you know, like,
so one guy, I explained the whole story about how, you know, here's this guy who we thought he was yet another superstar that we thought we were signing back in the mid '90s. Didn't pan out. We paid him at the time a very high salary of what was it, like $5-6 million a year, I believe it was.
It was a ton of money.
So then after like 2-3 years, they wanted to buy out his contract. And they offered him this most ridiculous back-end offer of $30 million payable once a year, every year until, I guess what, the year 2035, I believe.
Yep.
Oh my God. And July 1st is Bobby Bonilla Day.
Oh, it's sickening. I must get like 10 texts a day in regards to that. I'm like, really?
And we brought him back a second time, which was just
thank God we have an owner that it really doesn't affect him anymore. Yeah. It's like me paying my high mortgage once a month and then, you know, and then living well the rest of the month, you know. But
yeah, I mean, we've had our fair share of superstars who just haven't panned out here. I mean, you know, the Jason Bays, right? Even though he pitched our first no-hitter, Johan Santana really wasn't great when he was here.
right.
Pedro Martinez, you know,
just that one year.
And they were good, but you know, Roberto Alomar was a bust. Mo Vaughn was a bust.
Carlos Baerga.
Carlos Baerga was one of the great ones. Yeah.
No,
I think, you know, everybody like last year was worried with the whole Lindor thing. I think Lindor is going to be fine, actually.
No, well, he may
not be.
Hey, look what he did today.
Yep. He has 64 RBI.
He had that big 3-run homer earlier today.
Yep.
Fortunately, I was watching it. What a great game. You know, we really needed to take that series against Atlanta.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's a shame because yesterday was such a well-pitched game.
Yeah.
By Peterson, only to to fall apart in the 6th inning.
The fact that they could only put one run across, I was worried. Right.
I'm worried about Lugo. he's given up way too many home runs.
Yeah.
It's like he's lost a
Smith,
couple of speeds, a couple of
Yeah, he has not been effective. Not been effective.
mm-mm.
But anyway, to our topic. So I had a few topics, and this one topic came up just as I was watching the first game on Monday night. Mets and Braves. Mets did win that game 4-1. In the middle innings, and Travis d'Arnaud, who is a former catcher of the Mets, he's now with the Atlanta Braves. He was up at bat, and Gary and Keith. I think it was Gary who said he had a discussion with Travis, and basically he said that he's like, how are you able to turn it around and become a better hitter once again? And he basically said that he's not trying to hit home runs anymore, almost as if it was like a dig at the Mets organization at the time when he was there and what they were telling him to do. And I strongly suspect they almost ruined Dom Smith the same way. Trying to promote that launch angle, and these guys are natural. They hit for average. Dom struggles now, not basically, aside from the fact that he's having struggles right now. At least they're not telling him, you got to worry about the launch angle, and you got to hit a home run every time you're up, which.
I mean, Dom a couple of years ago was like a doubles machine. He's not doing anything but singles and striking out now.
And striking out, popping up, flailing away. I think with Dom, I think that he's just an ass because he remember if you were listening to the game, if you watched the game yesterday, he was talking about how when he was in the minor leagues that he was adjusting to the pitcher's clock. So, he wasn't in there, thinking about having to look for this pitch over here and he just stood in the batter's box and whatever came to me. So
he opened his stance up a little bit, right?
Yes, he did.
It seemed to help him for a couple of games, but man, now he's right back to doing nothing again.
Nope.
I like Dom, but to me, I think that he needs to change the scenery.
Yeah, same here.
He's one of those guys. It's like, what? He's never going to be the player they wanted here, and he needs to go somewhere else to be Dom Smith.
Not to mention, he made a great play. I don't know if either of you saw it. He made an amazing play in the ninth inning. They put him in as a defensive replacement for Alonso, and he saved a hit. But I suspect he wants to be an everyday first baseman. I don't think
he does, and
he's not going to get it with Alonso.
So they're going to trade him. I think they're going to trade him.
He's trade bait. I think he can, but we'll see.
As far as d'Arnaud goes, God bless him because he has done not this series, but man, he has killed the Mets over the last.
Oh yeah.
But I think with him, whether they were trying to get him to hit a home runs or not, I don't know. I know he was a big home run hitter in the minor leagues, but. He was never healthy here.
I was going to say the same exact thing.
He was on the disabled list constantly.
Broken hand here, broken toe here.
Every time he turned around, So he was doomed here from the get-go because he couldn't. I don't think he played one full season here.
No,
at all.
No.
Could never stay healthy.
So now he's healthy, and now he's the player that we all thought because I always thought he was going to be a really good player. He just couldn't do it here because he couldn't stay off of the stable list. Well, now he's healthy. Now he's again. It's like the curse of the Mets once again, right? How often does this happen?
Oh man, and remember he was traded for two Cy Young Award winners.
Exactly.
Right.
The late Roy Halladay and R.A. Dickey.
R.A. Dickey, yeah. Yep. Which at the time that was actually a pretty good trade.
No, it was a great trade, but
and Syndergaard, yeah.
And Syndergaard? Remember, Syndergaard was a throw-in to that trade.
Yeah.
It's not like the Mets wanted him. And, being that we're talking about Syndergaard, I just think that he just overplayed himself over here. He's one of the few players that I liked as a Met, but I really didn't go crazy that he left the Mets either.
No,
I don't miss him. I don't miss him whatsoever.
No,
he can go out there and win 300 games in Anaheim, and I could care less.
And what? He's not going to.
No.
I don't think he'll win 100.
His problem is he's a thrower. He's not a pitcher.
Yep.
He survives on that 95, 98 mile an hour heat. It's like look at Diaz now. He's much more effective because that slider's working for him. He's got people off balance. I mean, they were saying, was it, oh yeah, Monday night in the ninth inning, that he's making people swing and miss at a very large frequency, and that's a very good thing. And I just don't think you had that with Syndergaard.
No, no. What's a Syndergaard? Of all the pitchers that the Mets of that Fable Five that got away, Wheeler's the one that really disturbs me. Wheeler? Well, we saw signs of it the 2 seasons that he did pitch with, the last 2 seasons he pitched with the Mets, but he's another guy that could never stay healthy. But you're starting to see how good of a pitcher that he could be with Philadelphia. But he's always known for having that one bad inning. He starts off like he'll have a bad first or second inning. But he's the one that actually disturbed me, more so than anything. And then now there's talks about DeGrom wanting to leave. I don't know where they're getting this from, but if the general manager is talking about that, that he wants to leave, that's kind of upsetting right there.
Well, I mean, he's another one who can't stay healthy all of a sudden.
He has to stop throwing and get back to pitching.
Right.
Buck Showalter said something really interesting the other day in his press conference. He said that the human body is not built to withstand an arm throwing a little hard object at that angle with that torque at 100 miles an hour. It's just not built for it. So, and that's we all grew up watching pitchers throw 7, 8 innings every start and pitching throwing 120 pitches a game and maybe hitting 90 on the gun, right? And having long careers. And now you've got these guys who are like, they're built differently. They're out. It's all about velocity, how hard you can throw. And everybody's getting Tommy John surgeries and everybody's blowing out their elbows and their shoulders. And it's just, this is normal. Now pitchers don't last more than, you got your freaks like Scherzer and so on and so forth. But for the most part, that's the game now, right? Because they're being asked to blow everybody away. The whole art of finesse pitching. I mean, you ever like go back and watch like old clips of like Tom Glavine or Steve Carlton or Maddox and watching those guys and why they throwing 80, 85, maybe 90 tops and watching those balls do all this wild stuff. Pitchers don't do that anymore.
No. Right. Look at Earl Hershiser. Earl Hershiser barely got over 92 miles per hour, but he knew how to pitch.
Yeah.
David Cohn had a mid-90s fastball, but he spent a lot of time, crafting his pitches and so rather than to blow it past people. And it's a shame because you think about it, we're in an era right now where, I was reading something on, I think it was either Saturday or Sunday, Saturday or Sunday where, Tom Seaver in his rookie season in 1967 had 18 complete games, and then I searched for stuff on DeGrom. DeGrom only has, I think, two complete games, and then his 2018 Cy Young Award winning season where he was 10-9. I'm like, if the guy stayed in most of these games, I'm like, he would have probably won some of these games. But 10-9, I love DeGrom, but how much can we continue to overrate him? If he can't stay healthy?
Right. He was only going to be able to pitch like this, like the wizard that he is for so long. It's just not sustainable. How old is he now? 33, 34?
He's going to be 34 this year. Matter of fact, no, he did. No, sorry, he just turned 34 like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
He had how many seasons of dominance? Relatively healthy, 5 maybe,
something like that.
His rookie season 2014, he had a pretty good 2015. Pitched well in 2016, but he had a poor 2017. And then he said that his epiphany was a game that he pitched against the Texas Rangers where they lit him up, and basically he was in tears in the dugout. And from that point onward, and so he just felt that he had to just throw it past people. And it's a shame because the Mets have been one of these franchises that have been blessed with having these great pitchers, And the only one that could actually sustain and that we still want to that talk about is number 41. Number 41 and Tom Seaver. Tom Seaver was a tough guy. If he couldn't blow it past you, and so he would nickel and dime you out the park. The guy was just a great pitcher, and to me, and so Scherzer seems to bring that edge, and I'm hopefully if DeGrom is like paying attention and so learn from this guy. Everyone else seems to think that like listening to Scherzer is going to make them better. Scherzer's a winner.
He is.
Yeah.
He's a bulldog. Yeah, he is. I mean, I hope DeGrom comes back. I hope we get a half a season from him, and then what happens after that happens after that. I don't know. I mean, he's making so much money as it is.
But if he comes back, it's a good problem because segueing into another topic, I had written down about our starters. So we started the season with Scherzer and DeGrom thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And DeGrom, he hasn't even pitched one inning yet. So fortunately, the pitchers we put together, they've really, first of all, having Buck Showalter as the manager really helped us out. New mentality, but it wouldn't have worked if it wasn't for these other pitchers, Charlie Bassett, Taijuan Walker, Carlos Carrasco, David Peterson, who last night pitched a great game. Unfortunately, got no run support. Today, Bassett kept them off the board long enough for us to put 5 runs up. And Taijuan Walker's been great. Carrasco's been great at times. So, what do we? I mean, are we even worried about what's his name at this point?
DeGrom.
DeGrom.
No, we still need him, but I think that these guys with what they have right now, so they're able to tread water with him. As a matter of fact, not even tread water. They seem to be playing well despite him not being there. These guys, they all know that that's their teammate and he is their best pitcher. But if the guy can't stay healthy, the game must go on. As Buck Showalter says, he's like, these guys are not going to feel sorry for you. You got to go out there and play.
Yeah.
What the Mets do need is that they need to get their middle relief healthy again. Trevor May getting hurt. Who else got hurt? What's the other middle reliever? But they're guys that they were counting on that got hurt. And what's Drew Smith? He can't. He has to remember that he has to pitch. He has to stop throwing these balls to contact because they're going a long way.
Yeah, they are. They are. Yeah, I think that they definitely need to go and see if they can get a relief pitcher for the bullpen, because I think their starting pitching has been the least of their worries. It's been probably 90% good. Carrasco had a handful of starts that were terrible. Walker's been great. Bassett had a little rough stretch. I think he's back in swing of things. Peterson's been very good. Tyler McGill was great, but he's probably close to done for the year because he can't stay healthy either. And then you've got Williams has done some spot starts. So I think
pitched well.
Yeah, he's pitched well. So I think if you get DeGrom back, nothing to worry about there on the starting pitching front. They need bullpen help. They do, because they've all Ottavino's been pretty good. Diaz has been lights out.
It's been pretty good.
Smith was great early on. He's had some trouble recently. Joely Rodriguez has been okay. God, who else is there?
The couple of guys that they just released, and one was picked up by the Dodgers this morning.
Yep.
We were talking about Lugo before.
Yeah, Lugo has not been good this year.
Right.
I don't trust Lugo anymore.
No, I don't either. I didn't even trust him last year.
I mean, he does get us the spot save every once in a while when Diaz hasn't been available. But Diaz worked his way back to the All-Star game, so.
He's looking like the Diaz from the Seattle Mariners. The guy that we traded for.
And
a couple of years later. But
think about it. The story was that everybody was like, "Oh, I can't believe that you traded Kelenic for him," and look what Kelenic is doing. Kelenic is back in AAA. But one thing that we do have to remember that was probably going to come back to haunt us is the kid that they traded for Baez, for what's it, the Pete Crow Armstrong, who's playing fantastic out in Chicago right now. He's like lighting up things right now. But unlike Kalenic, this kid can hit, and he's a way better defensive player. But the Mets felt that they had to get Javier Baez because, at the time,
Right.
Francisco had got hurt, and they didn't know how long it was going to take for him to come back. And he wound up leaving, and not that I miss him, but but they did give up a pretty talented guy for him.
Yeah, that's the whole win now thing, Chuck, because I think they still thought that we were going to go to the playoffs, and we just went into such a tailspin over the summer that it was a lost cause by the time September rolled around. And so that was a waste of a trade.
Yep.
Looking back. And then they didn't bother to try and re-sign Baez, because he wanted too much money. And who's laughing now because he went to the Tigers, who are terrible because he got that big contract, and he's having an awful year.
And got hurt twice.
Yeah.
Normally he's an Iron Man, but he got hurt twice. He got hurt here, and then he got hurt twice in Detroit.
Yep.
Don't miss him. Don't miss him.
Nor me. So one of the topics we had said was the trade deadline. Who would you guys like to see the Mets get?
I still think that they need a proper DH. So I believe that somewhere along the road, both J.D. Davis and Dom Smith would be the two guys, or maybe even Drew Smith. Those three probably might be the odd men out, going in a trade somewhere.
Yeah, I think Smith and Davis, it's time for them to move on. They're not the solution. I mean, the problem is I don't think either one of them was given enough time, because you got two guys who we thought were capable. And I think the thought process was, well, we have DH now, so they can both alternate in the DH spot and it'll be great, And as it turns out, it's been terrible. Neither one of them has done much of anything.
Nope.
Already half the seasons here. So I think what they need to do, I think they need to stop this whole, the rotating person in the DH role, because every other team that has a great DH, it's the same guy out there every day. It's a guy who maybe doesn't have a spot in the field. This should have been J.D. Davis, but he's not proving anything. Plate. So you got to go out and get a guy like, and again, there's a bunch of guys out there. There's Bell from the Nationals. He's going to cost a lot.
Nelson Cruz probably won't.
Nelson Cruz, I don't know how much he has left. 2 years ago, I would have been like, definitely get Nelson Cruz, but he's 41. He's having a subpar year. Maybe he's nearing the end, but could he be any less effective than these two other guys?
My thing is that, like I said, being that he's 41 already, and so, it's like looking at at some of these guys like Pujols right now. Pujols, it's painful watching him run the first base.
Right. But yet he got selected to the All-Stars, and he's actually going to be in the home run derby.
Yes.
He is. I mean, they're talking about the guy from Baltimore, perhaps. Brandon Drury from Cincinnati, who we just had anyway. Right, and he's all of a sudden having like this amazing year, right? So there are guys out there on some shitty teams that I think we could pry away to be DH and spot start in the outfield or in the infield. So I suspect that they're going to do something there. But the other alternative, which we were talking about off camera before we started, is you got Vientos down in AAA, who's the big power hitter down there. What could it hurt to bring him up, right? And have him DH for a month and see what he's got.
And there was also talk about our top catching prospect, Francisco Alvarez,
the number 2 prospect in the major league. Well, Alvarez, what's up? From what I read, they said that he still needs a lot of work with his catching.
Right.
They don't want him to come up here and be like what the Yankees had with their catchers.
Right.
So they were like, listen, let him go down there, let him learn how to catch, let him learn how to call a game. And once that happens, and so and if he can keep his head in the game as far as baseball wise goes, and so they'll bring him up.
Right.
But I personally wouldn't rush him up. Let him get his feet wet in AAA. Let him learn how it is. He needs some.
He's only 20.
Yep, he's baby, man.
It's funny. I'm on some of these Facebook pages, which they're the death of me. You got all this negativity. A lot of
Social
them
media
are
and
screaming,
sports, man.
oh, get Francisco Alvarez up. I'm like, why rush the guy? We're in
Exactly.
first place. We're playing very good ball, for the most part. We cooled off but we're still in first place. Just bring him up for a September call up. They just promoted him to AAA. I'd say at least give him a month or 2 months there. There's no reason to rush him. If we cover especially if we address the DH situation,
Yeah.
get, some more potent bats in the lineup.
The other option too is you try to make a trade for Contreras from the Cubs, but
they're going to want
Cubs
a
are going
lot.
to fleece us if we do that, right?
No, they're going to want some of our top prospects. The one prospect that the Mets probably might deal off is their shortstop prospect, their number one shortstop, Mauricio.
Yeah.
Which they're talking about him because let's see how, because like Med Rosario, they believe that he's probably going to wind up a right fielder or a center fielder in the future, and he might be an odd man out. But when you're looking at the upcoming draft, they're talking about the Mets trading a couple of shortstops with their 2 first-round picks, and we'll see. They already have a shortstop entrenched at in Flushing for the next 10 years. So how's that going to work out?
Right.
Well, do you develop one of them as a second baseman then, perhaps?
Maybe,
right? Because we've got, Guillorme has been amazing.
Yeah, he's been amazing.
Jesus, this guy is like whatever you ask him to do, he does, and he does well. Granted, he's not like a big hitter, but he's getting key little hits every game it seems, and he's making all the plays.
Oh, defensive.
O'Neill is awesome. O'Neill they plug everywhere as well.
Right.
So, but do they have that kind of young second baseman stud coming up, or potentially a year or two away? They don't really have that.
No.
So
they don't really need him.
No. And then not only that, they don't even have one in their top 30.
Right.
Everybody they have are basically third basemen and shortstops. So they don't even have true outfield prospects. The 2 that they have, the 2 that they brought up, both stunk up the place. And when it comes to these Mets, they need to be able to develop a true outfielder. And sadly, once again, as mentioned, Pete Crow Armstrong was supposed to have been that center fielder, but they traded him away to Chicago, and he seems to be doing very well, as they expected.
Yeah, because since Conforto, we haven't really had a homegrown outfielder that's meant anything here in a long time. Other than Nimmo, right? Nimmo's been very great. Excellent.
He's been awesome, actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he stays.
No, I don't think that they'll get
Nimmo, really?
No. Because he's not a true center fielder, and he gets on base. Yes, he does have that pretty good OPS average, but they're going to need somebody that's going to be able to be entrenched in that center field position, that's going to be able to star for this team. And if this team is supposed to be taking that next step, sometimes I guess that they're going to have to bite that bullet and make sure that they get some stars for this team.
Yeah.
But I still think that they overpaid for Lindor. There was no.
Oh, they certainly did. Yeah, they certainly did. But there was no,
unfortunately,
I don't know if that deal gets done if they don't do that.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes you have no choice.
Yeah.
You don't do it, the Yankees or somebody else might get him, and we don't want that.
Well, look what Jimenez. He's on the All-Star game. He's on the All-Star roster for the American League. Ahmed Rosario is playing well for them. The other 2 guys, the Isaiah Green and Josh Wolf, they've been hurt. So we haven't really heard much about them in the Cleveland Guardians system. But the other 2, you knew that they were going to be pretty special. So, but they had to move Ahmed Rosario to the outfield for him to start playing better. Because he wasn't a shortstop. At least because you saw him. He might have had the goods but I think he's better as an outfielder.
Yeah, I think Nimmo, I would love to keep Nimmo when he becomes a free agent, but I have a feeling him and Boris are going to price themselves out of a Met contract. I just have this.
I hope not. I'm starting to really like him. He's, I was down on him in the past, but he's shown me something this year.
Oh, and he stays healthy. And you know what? God bless him. He has turned into a pretty good center fielder. And
Yes.
and maybe that's just it's just proof of how the majority of the major leagues have not produced good center fielders. There's really not a lot of true center fielders out there anymore.
Right.
Like we remember. You remember the old days, you had these guys
And
center field, they ran all over the place like crazy.
Right.
The long careers, good hitters. Now it's like you don't see that too often. So I think he's developed into a pretty good all-around player. But is he worth, $150 million?
Yeah.
Is because he's what, late 20s, was he 29? He's hurt a lot. He doesn't really hit much for power. He doesn't steal bases, so it's hard to say, because I know a lot of people like, oh, Aaron Judge is going to be a free agent. Wouldn't it be great to get him on the Mets, right? And we can move Marte over into center field. Right? I was like, yeah, that'd be great. Is that going to happen?
Nah.
Maybe if Stevie Cohen really wants it, but I have this hard time thinking that Judge is going to leave the Yankees.
No, he's gonna get his money. He's gonna get that $400 million contract.
And then what's going to happen at 32 years old? He's going to break down, and that's going to be an albatross for them. Because he's a very gifted player, but the way he's built, those big, huge, tall athletes don't age well. They just don't.
No,
right.
Basketball players, wrestlers. I mean, all that. It just doesn't work that way. So
maybe
he'll be different, but he's had a lot of injuries over the last couple of years. So.
Too many.
Yeah, but I mean, great player. Great player. I'd love to have him.
So would I.
Imagine him and Alonso on the same team.
Oh man, sheesh.
Something else. Yeah.
We could even think about the Washington's right fielder,
Soto.
Yeah.
I would love to have him. I'm always debating with my coworkers. I'm like, who would you rather have? Would you rather prefer to have Judge, who you know about, or the young superstar with Washington and Juan Soto? And there's always a lot of like, oh, well, I don't really know too much about him because he's.
I'd take Soto without question.
So would I.
100%. 23 years old.
Yep.
Yeah.
His peak years are ahead of him.
Yep.
You haven't seen the best from him yet.
And a world champion.
Right. And he wants out of there.
Yep.
He wants out of there. You have to think he's what, a free agent in 2023?
This year.
At the end of this year.
So they're going to have to wind up trading him. They're going to have to do something with him because, no, actually, forgive me. It is 2023. But their thing is that he's not going to stay there. He's already turned down 2 large contracts, and he just is like, nope. I don't care how much unless you're proving that this franchise is going to go somewhere. I would love that. I would love that. That would be awesome.
I like it.
I can't imagine that Steve Cohen would. He's got to be thinking we got to do everything we can do to bring him there.
Exactly.
It's going to cost him a lot of money, right? And they're already paying Lindor all this money, but you got to think.
So while we're on the subject of trades and trade deadlines, how about addition by subtraction? We just talked about him in the chat the other day, Chuck. Mr. Robinson Cano.
Oh gosh, man! Remember what they said? They was like, "Oh man, watch him." Buck was like, "Oh, watch him get 3 hits on Monday."
Yeah,
he actually had a good series.
Yeah, he did. I think he had 2 hits on Monday night. He had a hit today, which his hit today didn't mean anything, but. The fact is, he had 3 hits in the series that I know.
It's only because they were playing the Mets. You watched the next week. He's going to get no hits. He's going to get released by the Braves.
Well, they did say he's going to hang around for at least a month because somebody's injured on the Braves. I forget who.
Their second baseman.
Right.
Second baseman is hurt. What's his name? Albies. Albies.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. So there's that. Here's a general baseball discussion. I know, Pete, we didn't talk about it the last time we had a baseball roundtable. This idea of putting a man on second base in extra innings. What do you guys think about it? Let's start with you, Chuck.
Well, I hate to be that sourpuss. I see where Major League Baseball feels that, because I'm one of these people that don't get bored watching a baseball game. Unless it's a bad baseball game. If I'm into a baseball game, I will basically be just intent on watching this game. So I never really feel bored watching the game. But, you have a lot of people, I have my nephews, all 6 of them basically are like, really don't care too much about it. There's not much action that goes on there. And
Right.
you know, a lot of the younger crowd, and so they don't watch the games. You know, they never had the opportunity to listen to a Bob Murphy on radio, you know, or Ralph Kiner, you know,
Right.
especially on radio, because you know, my father and I, you know, we used to listen to a lot of games because in the Bronx they didn't have cable at the time during the late 70s and the early 80s. And we used to listen to radio games and we loved it. You know,
Yeah.
listen to Bob Murphy with who was
Lindsey Nelson, Ralph Kiner.
Ralph Kiner. You know, so you know, you got to listen to these guys and you got to visualize how much these games were and the way they described them. So if you can't visualize baseball like that, it's going to always be hard. So my thing is that I see where baseball is coming from the aspect of this new generation that feels that baseball is being dragging on. You know, they're going to put a stop clock, you know, and they want to end these games quicker. I don't like it. I'm not too crazy about it. It's bad enough that we have the DH already and so, but it was necessary to keep our pitchers healthy.
Right.
You know? But as far as that goes, and so I think that if I was a Major League Baseball, I look at it like this: if they feel that they want to end these games quicker, and so I say after like a 14th or 15th inning, that's when they should institute the second,
Right.
with the runner on second base, not in the 10th inning or the 11th or 12th. I
Right.
just think that it cheapens the game. But you know, you have the Mets that, you know, they're they're like unbeaten, if I'm not mistaken, in the last 9 or 10 games that they played in extra innings. I'm like, easy, because you know these guys have to basically, you know, they're basically driving guys in. Well, actually, no, they're 9-1. Forgive me. You know, but you know, I just don't like it. I'm not too crazy about it. That's just my opinion.
Okay. No, that's a very fair opinion. Pete.
I've kind of gotten used to it at this point. I guess maybe because I've personally sat through so many 14, 15, 16, 17 inning games, and that's a marathon, right? And I agree with a lot of what Chuck said, though. To start it in the 10th inning maybe isn't the greatest idea in the world, but honestly, I don't really mind it all that much. Maybe I just gotten used to it, and I just, you know, along with there's other changes to the game that I've been a little more, you know, resistant to. But you know, is it moving away from tradition? Yeah, but you know, but it saves us maybe an hour, and when the games are already 3-4 hours long. So I don't know. I don't really mind it that much. I know that's probably not going to please a lot of traditionalists, but yeah, I've just gotten used to it, and now it's just kind of like, all right, we have an opportunity for this game to end in the 10th or the 11th inning, but we still see some that go 12, 13, 14. Yeah, so I don't know. It's not like for me, one of the things that I hate, I can't stand the shift.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like, and I'm not saying that there's a way where they can just, you know, block it completely, but I mean, it's just, come on. And then you got these major league players who, you know, there's the shift, and what do? Hit it right into the shift time. And
No, it's funny. So today's game, Nimmo actually did have a hit right up the middle today. So now Gary and Keith, they were saying that traditionally, if you hit it up the middle, it's automatically a hit. But now with the shift, it's not automatically a hit, because sometimes you got your second baseman or even your third baseman playing right behind the second base bag.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah.
But it's just a weird way they configured the defense of Nimmo, that he hit it got through.
Yeah. The problem resides not so much in actually doing the shift, but the fact that you got all these hitters in the major leagues who can't do anything but pull the ball.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, that's the problem right there. And that's why I love when you got a guy like Jeff McNeil who comes up. It's like, all right, you're going to pull the shift on me? Great. All he does hits it the other way. That's what you're supposed to do. Any Major League Baseball player should be able to do that, right?
Exactly.
But how many can't?
Guillorme today.
Yes.
So,
exactly. Right over the third base. Yeah, exactly.
Did you see that? But
yes, I saw that.
Buck Showalter actually batted him cleanup today.
Yeah.
And yeah, he hit it right over third base and drove a run in. It's great. Yeah.
Oh, it just kills him. My father always hated the fact, you know, we'll watch a game and, you know, Darryl Strawberry, oh my goodness, he pulls the ball right to the first baseman all the time. I'm like, you know, that's his swing.
Yeah. Right.
That's what power hitters do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. As
I
far
mean,
as
also, it's the way they're pitching in coordination with, they're pitching with the hopes that they're going to pull it right into the shift.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep, but if they get that pitch a little bit in that sweet spot, it's going to go a long way.
Right.
That's the plan anyway.
Mhm. I remember the last show that you did in regards to, you were talking about the no hitter. I unfortunately was at work that day, and it just seems that once again, we were talking about how complete games are like a thing of the past now.
Oh, yeah.
Most pitchers are expected to go 7 innings, and that's a quality start.
Yeah. That's actually a great start if you get 7 out of them now. Now,
Coaching 100 pitches. Well,
Yeah.
Oh, geez. A 4.5
how many
innings.
times now? I saw this with Peterson yesterday. As soon as he got right around that 100 pitch mark, you could tell he was gassed.
Yeah, he was
Now
gone.
they can't. They're conditioned to only go that far.
right.
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 It's very few guys that are like, they're like 110 pitches. I can go another inning.
Right.
Most of them are like,
Well, look,
it's it.
think about it. That's what Nolan Ryan. I remember Nolan Ryan. They
Oh, that
said that he
guy.
was trying to institute that with the Texas Rangers a few years ago. But these guys, in the minor leagues, they weren't used to throwing 110 pitches, 100, excuse me, 120 pitches, and it wound up destroying his pitchers' teams. Forgive me, his team's pitchers.
Yeah.
But Nolan Ryan was just that freak of nature.
Yeah.
But people have to remember that it wasn't just arm action with him. It was everybody that pitched on that Mets pitching staff that learned how to pitch with their entire body, and that
Legs.
lower leg. Yep, the lower legs. Guy had tree trunk for legs. Tom Seaver.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Now
Doc,
everything is here to here.
Yep.
Everything.
I remember when 84 and 85, when Doc had those great seasons. Doc Gooden, I'm talking for all you non-Met fans out there. But I think he had the most beautiful windup. He did use his whole body, and and he just had that really nice fluid motion, and
and that curveball, man.
that beautiful Uncle Charlie, they called
Uncle
it.
Charlie, Uncle Charlie.
No, but that was for people that don't know. He had this curveball that would look like it would fall right off the end of a table.
A cliff.
You're expecting a 98-mile-per-hour fastball, and then you get this curveball that just 12-6, and you were done for.
Yeah. You make these great hitters look so bad. It was insane. Yeah.
Oh, what a shame, man.
If it wasn't for the white stuff, man, he would have been a Hall of Fame pitcher.
Oh, man. He would have been the second pitcher behind Tom Seaver. He had 157 wins with the Mets, and in his career, he only had 194. And he goes and pitches a no-hitter with the Yankees.
I know. Yeah. I thought for sure he'd get one for us for the Mets, but
he should have gotten one with in that Chicago game, the so-called Keith Moreland booted play to Ray Knight. I was actually at that game, and we all booed the umpire mercifully. The game was over.
Which game was that?
This was in 1984. Keith Moreland hits a ball up the third baseline. No, forgive me. I'm sorry. That was 1985. Hits a ball up the line that Ray Knight fobbles, and before he could throw it, they just called it a hit.
Oh,
and I think it was the same guy. It was just a bad call. It should have been a no-hitter, but hey.
But I was actually thinking it might have been the same game that I went to, because I once went to a game where Doc Gooden looked like he was throwing a no-hitter, and it was against the Cubs.
That's the game.
But it was on my birthday, June 5th.
Nice.
And he had this no-hitter going into the 7th inning, which was legitimately broken up. But the other funny thing I never expected, he hit a home run that game.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was a pretty good hitter.
Yeah.
Oh, that's had a lot of talented pitchers that could hit.
But it was his first major league home run, but it was a no-doubter. As soon as it left the bat, it was out of there. So.
Oh man, Dwight Gooden, man. He believes that he shouldn't be railroaded for what happened in his career, but life happens, and
Right.
sadly, he was never able to, to get past all of that, those demons in his life.
But I'm grateful to Doc Gooden, because if it wasn't for Doc Gooden, I wouldn't have had my 10 seconds of fame on ESPN.
ESPN.
So back in 2015,
Mhm.
and I live in Nassau County, so the county seat in Mineola, they have town hall, and so the Mets had a rally there that day. It was like a postseason rally to try and rally the team, and all the Met fans. This was around 5-6 o'clock, gathered there, and I of course was there in my Mets gear, and I got there early, and I said, "Fuck it, I am getting in the front this time. I am not being in the back." So I was in the front with a bunch of people, and there were TV cameras there, and Doc Gooden was there. Little did I know at the time that they were filming it as part of a documentary called Doc and Daryl.
Nice.
So yeah, so if you watch that, I don't know if you watched that.
I think I did see that.
So anyway, there's somebody who in blue and orange with a camera in his hand and going like this. That's me. Yeah.
Nice.
And I didn't even know about it until several years later. A friend of mine in the lodge that I belonged to.
Jack, I saw you on that damn Mets documentary.
That's exactly what happened. He's like, is that Jack?
I'm gonna go watch that. I'm sure that's on YouTube. So
well, actually, if you don't have cable, right? But because see, if you had cable, you could watch on demand, ESPN on demand.
I might be able to do that, because I have to check YouTube TV. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, and basically in that documentary, he talks about the fact that because he had his drug problems and he missed the parade for the World Series, this would be like the next best thing for him. That he's there, he's in a better place, he's drug free, he looks nice and presentable in a suit, and he gets to interact with all the fans, which he missed out on the first time.
Terrible, man. It was so distressing to look at everybody celebrating in after the World Series and he not be there.
Right.
And the excuse was that he had a headache. I'm like, he had a headache? Really?
Yeah, right.
Had a headache in a crack house.
Exactly.
Yeah. But in any event, I'm just.
It is on YouTube, by the way. Doc and Daryl.
Oh,
check it out.
Very nice. Yeah.
Do you remember how far into the documentary?
It might have been about 50 minutes to an hour, but I'm unmistakable. I'm in the front. I'm going like this. Same goatee. I've got a Nikon camera in my hand. So check it out.
All right, sounds good.
But any other topics? I think we already mentioned Mr. Cano. Oh, okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about, or?
Go Pete! All-Star game, home run derby.
I wish that he could save some of those hits for this upcoming series.
Well, I tell you, to his credit, though, for the 2 times that he won the home run derby, he performed spectacularly once the season started again. So it hasn't hindered him at all, like a lot of other guys who played in the home run derbies and all of a sudden their bats were barren for like a month afterwards.
Yeah,
so
right.
He seems to be like, all right, no big deal, So.
Well, he did get 1 RBI in the Atlanta series. He got a double with I think it was Nimmo on base, but
yeah.
The
problem with him is that, and it's not his fault. There's really nobody else in the lineup that I think opposing pitchers are really afraid of.
Yeah.
So they're doing nothing but throwing him junk, and he's trying to carry the load, and he's just swinging and everything. And that's a reason why the Mets need to go out and get an impact.
I don't know if I told you this, Pete. So the game, I went to the first game between the Mets and the Marlins this season, the game where the Mets beat them 10-4.
Yep.
So they loaded the bases in front of him, and I'm like, oh, this is great. They're going to have to pitch to him. First pitch out of the ballpark.
Grand slam.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah.
But But like I said, they're gonna need to get somebody because they don't have anybody behind them that's gonna be able to help them out. But Lindor, is actually getting some pitches to hit.
Yeah.
He's driven in. He's driving in a lot of for. Matter of fact, Lindor, if I'm not mistaken, is the first shortstop, first switch hitting shortstop to have 60 RBI before the All-Star break.
Really? In all of
major,
baseball?
in Major League history, yeah.
Wow. Well,
Mhm.
so you know what? At least I think we're getting at least some of our value for him,
Mhm.
which is cool.
He's going to finish up with close to 30 home runs and 100 and something RBIs. And
Yeah.
you know what? That's what we brought him in here for.
Right.
And he's
Exactly.
playing a great shortstop. So, I think people expect, because he's making so much money, that they want him to come through every at bat. And you know what? Nobody does that.
No,
It's unrealistic expectations.
No.
But
But-
he's last year he kind of sucked. He's
Yep.
been pretty good this year. If
But
to good
also-
to really good.
As you mentioned defensively, today, he there was a play where they had men on second and third, and the Braves were threatening. He made a really nice throw from the short outfield to get the guy at first, and
Yeah, he's been very good
in the inning. Yeah,
Yeah, I got no complaints with him
No.
defensively whatsoever.
defensively, he's awesome. He's
Yeah.
pretty damn good. Mhm.
We need more offense from Escobar.
Yeah,
I know he's
well, we got it from him today.
We
Yeah,
did,
yes.
but he's been pretty bad offensively for the most part.
Yeah,
left
He's
a lot.
pretty good in the field. I don't really have much to bitch about on his
right.
field.
No, he's been good defensively at third. Yeah,
He has. So, catching has been like a sore spot.
Oh man,
Nito's a good
McCann,
Nito's a good catcher, but
but
he's
McCann,
not an offensive guy, and
No.
McCann can't stay healthy.
Ah,
It's like watching Darno all over again.
All
Just
over
take the
again.
mask off. Like, oh, come
Yeah.
on.
so
You're
on
back.
that tag play the other day, I understand he now has an oblique injury from that.
yeah.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
So he may be out for like 2 months.
That's what they said.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
And let me tell you something. He hasn't hit at all since he's been here.
No, he's been
No.
terrible.
But he never has been much of a hitter. He had that one pretty good season in Chicago, which is the season before we signed him. And I think everybody's like, oh, McCann, what a score. And now he's proven to be basically just a decent backup catcher. That's really all
Right.
he is.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need Mr. Alvarez to kind of mature in the minor leagues so he can come here a year from now to be
Right.
the guy for the next 10 years. That's what we desperately need.
Exactly.
Because we've never really replaced Mike Piazza with
No.
anybody who's been,
No.
Nope.
a good to pretty good catcher, unfortunately.
Right.
We had Hundley for a while, but Hundley was not the hitter that Piazza was.
Right.
And Piazza wasn't as bad defensively as people made him out to be. They're like, oh, he was terrible. Oh, he couldn't. He had a poor arm, but he was not. He wasn't bad defensively.
He just loved throwing to him. That's the key.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mhm. He had a nice wide zone because it's such a tall catcher too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that bat of his was a beautiful
Oh.
thing. So
Yeah.
Mm.
But so in any event, so the last thing I want to talk about, and this is a very quick and hopefully easy thing. So one of our viewers wrote in about, this is like watching In the Prague Seat Meets a baseball discussion. So in 10 seconds or less, could you guys think of a title for today's show?
Hmm.
I was going to call it In the Amazins Seat.
Mhm.
What would you call it?
Those that love the Mets emphatically.
You, Pete,
Um,
something quickly or no?
the summer of 2022 with the Mets.
All right, Summer of Jack.
Mhm.
But in any event, okay, so this has been a very fun discussion. What I like to do in these type of discussions is just to get my guests talking, and you guys gave us a lot of really great content, and I thank you for that. It was very fun. I'd like to do these maybe every month, once or twice every month until the baseball season's over. I'll see you guys maybe in a few weeks, and
Yeah, man.
Always something to talk about with our New York Mets, right?
Exactly,
yes,
you know.
indeed. I am working on maybe trying to bring one or two more guests. One person I think would be very entertaining for our group, but we'll see what happens.
Mhm.
Come on, Jack. You know you can get Keith on the show. Come on, you can do it.
Keith Hernandez. Yeah, so that's another thing, folks. I did recently record an episode, a Seinfeld Keith Hernandez related episode. So go back
Nice.
into my archives and check it out. It was a lot of fun. I talk about the top 10 lines in that episode.
The golden loogie.
Yep, magic movie. Yeah. Well, I even better, unrelated to that discussion of baseball, George comes out and says, with all these teams flying around, don't you think there'd be a plane crash? It's just what we all think.
Amazing.
Because of course they're all in their separate planes, right? So
Yeah. But in any event, so I thank you very much, Chuck and Pete, for joining me. So this is Jack Toledano speaking for All or None, according to Jack. Please subscribe. Please put your comments in the comments section. And I thank you all for watching. And guys, check out In the Prague Seat on Sea of Tranquility. It is a great show, and I envy their knowledge. I wish I knew as much about Prague music as Pete and Chuck do. So check it out, and all of Pete's other fine programming. Have a good night, all.
let's go, Mets.
Good night, everyone. Let's go Mets. Yes.
Yeah.